Everyone, my name's Hickman and I'm a solicitor in the immigration team at Bindmans. Welcome to the latest edition of Immigration Unpacked. Today I'm joined by my colleague Vincent Palfi and we're taking a quick look at the changes to the UK's asylum system that took effect last week. Thanks for joining me, Vincent. So the changes we're discussing took effect on the 2nd of March 2026 with a day's notice, and they concern the amount of time that people are granted refugee status. We're actually recording this episode on the 4th of March, which means we don't know everything there is to know because I think a lot of details will be released on the 5th of March. But we made the decision just to do this anyway and just to get something out. And we will possibly do a follow-up episode with more details, or very likely either Vincent or I or someone else, another colleague, will be doing a blog with more detailed information. So at the moment, what we're doing, Vincent, is just an overview. So let's talk about what we know so far. So starting off firstly, can you tell me what the position has been until now for those recognised as refugees in the UK?
Yeah, so previously refugees were granted a period of 5 years leave to remain, and after 5 years they could apply for indefinite leave to remain. Currently, the Home Office are required to conduct something called a safe return review when considering indefinite leave to remain applications. So they would assess whether there were any significant changes to a country situation, which would mean that a refugee no longer fears persecution in their home country. And the Home Office would also consider whether a refugee's personal circumstances have changed as well, which means they would no longer be at risk of persecution. So we've seen this with Syrian asylum claims, where the Home Office has paused consideration of those claims, and also they've paused consideration of indefinite leave to remain applications. But in practice, generally, the majority of refugees are granted indefinite leave to remain after 5 years.
So just to recap, so at the moment or until now, people who are granted who get refugee status given 5 years. At the end of the 5 years, they apply for indefinite leave, which is permanent residence. And the standard position is the Home Office is meant to decide whether they should still qualify for refugee status, like do an active review at the end. But the reality is they often don't, with some exceptions like Syria. And what's changing? So what's new?
So under these new changes, anyone who has claimed asylum from Monday, the 2nd of March, and is recognised as a refugee will only be granted a period of 30 months leave to remain rather than the 5 years as previously. And after 30 months, refugees will be expected to renew their leave to remain. And Shabana Mahmood has said that refugees with a continuing need of sanctuary will have their protection renewed, while those refugees from countries which are now deemed safe will be expected to return home. Crucially, unaccompanied children will continue to receive 5 years leave to remain, but the government are considering whether they will make a new long-term policy for unaccompanied children. Shabana Mahmood has also said that the UK will also open new safe and legal routes, with something called community sponsorship being the norm. So we've seen this with the Ukraine sponsorship scheme, but again, it's yet to be determined what other sponsorship schemes will be introduced.
So we're going from, first of all, I think it's for people who don't know how it works, you have to go through a process of being recognised as a refugee. And that can take, my experience is 1, 2, sometimes even 3 years, sometimes longer, right? And then once they get it, the government gives them a visa, leave to remain, which was 5 years, and it now will be 30 months, 2.5 years. And then every 2.5 years, people will need to keep renewing that, so applying, and then the Home Office will say, we'll look at it and think, okay, we think you still qualify as a refugee or not. So they're going to do like some kind of active review. But you said that children who are making asylum claims alone, so without their parents, will stay on this 5 years. And what was it you said? Community? What now? We spoke about this right before, and I
Yeah,
didn't really understand.
Yeah, so Shabana Mahmood said that community sponsorship will become the new norm. So again, we don't know what the details of that will be, but we have seen this in the past with the Ukraine sponsorship scheme. So British citizens or people already who already have permanent residence in the UK can sponsor Ukrainian nationals and accommodate them in their homes. So it may be something along those lines, but again, we don't have any details yet.
I mean, I don't know about you, but to me, that seems madness. Like if someone needs refugee status because they're at risk, they need it, regardless of whether a British citizen is prepared to step up and accommodate them. So this change, it's the reduction in the amount of time they're going to have their first visa. Let's call it a visa for. So you said for people who claim asylum from the 2nd of March. What about people who already have asylum claims in the system?
So Shabana Mahmood has made it clear in her statement that there will be transitional provisions for people who had already claimed asylum before Monday, the 2nd of March. So existing rules should continue to apply to those people.
Okay, so people who had made their asylum claims before the 2nd of March will still get the 5 years, as far as we know. So the government also plans to extend the amount of time it takes refugees to qualify, well, everyone, the amount of time it takes to qualify for indefinite leave. And that baseline, as far as we understand it, will be 20 years. It may be longer, it may be shorter. My understanding from the limited information we have is that those changes, what are called the earned settlement changes, won't be introduced or take effect before autumn. Is that your understanding as well, Vincent?
Yeah, so the government still intends to introduce this core protection route for refugees. And as you said, the default position will be that refugees on this route face a 20-year wait for being eligible for indefinite leave to remain. But if someone has arrived in the UK legally or entered as a visitor, then the length of time that they would have to wait before qualifying for indefinite leave to remain would be as high as 30 years. And yeah, my understanding as well is that the changes will take effect from autumn, but more details may be ironed out later this week.
Yeah, yeah. What we don't know, although I think there are unfortunately increasing signals that it will be the case, what we don't know is whether this 20-year period will affect people who are already here as refugees or who have already claimed asylum. So it might be everyone. That seems to be the indications we're getting at the moment, but we just don't know. As I said, thanks for joining me, Vincent. We will potentially follow this up with another episode, and we will do our best to get a blog out with more practical information once we've seen what these changes look like. So if you have a look in the blurb at the bottom, hopefully there will be a link there to a blog giving you more practical information. Thanks for joining me, Vincent.
Thanks very much, Karma.